Morning of MLB opening day, and the Twins have made a significant trade, a challenge trade to continue their big balls offseason. This is right in line with how this front office has been operating this offseason. Huge risks, challenge trades with MLB pieces going back and forth. Here we are at baseball trade values. I don't want to make it seem like this is sort of the gospel, that this is concrete. But if you look at this site, which I think is the best tool we have, and it really helps us contextualize guys by their contracts, their team control, and by this site's valuations, the Twins did pretty well here. As you can see here, this is the trade as it's being reported right now. I'm not sure if it's going to develop at all, but Chris Paddack and Emilio Pagan for Taylor Rogers and Brent Rooker. And as you can see, the Twins did very well in terms of value by their valuation. And that is something that I've said a bunch of times, that this front office is honing in on value. They're not always making trades that seem like they're in line with a team that's going for it or rebuilding. Sometimes they'll do like a little bit of both in the same trade. If they think they're getting value, they're going to make a trade. So do I think they got good value here? Do I agree with this? I do. Do I think that necessarily means it's a good trade? I think that's certainly debatable. I think that depends on what you think of Paddack and Pagan. I am seeing kind of the bright side with both of them. Both of them were very good in 2019, which if you think about it, that's kind of weird because that was the juiced ball season. If anything, you'd think that would have been their bad year. They've both not been as good since then production-wise, but there are things under the hood. There are things with their stats and their just their metrics on their performance, their velo, their pitches, that there's some things that are encouraging about. You could see them getting back to those levels. If you're less of a fan of them, I can see where you would hate this trade. Because I love Taylor Rogers. We know Taylor Rogers. Taylor Rogers is a great reliever. But the thing is, he's only under contract for this season. I think if the Twins didn't address the rotation, he was probably going to get traded at the deadline anyway. This organization does not pay big money to relievers. So even if Rogers would have been open to an extension, they are not going to pay him $15 million a season or whatever market price is going to be he's going to get paid. And good for him. He should. But I don't think that is in the Twins really what they're operating to do. So that's my thoughts on this trade. So if we're talking about just this trade, just this value, just this move, I would have done this move. Does that mean I love it? No. Obviously I think a lot of Twins fans are going to say like, why couldn't they have traded prospects? San Diego's trying to win, so I don't think they would have wanted prospects. Even guys who are major league ready, I think they wanted established major leaguer because they're trying to win out there in the NL West. So, you can't dictate what another team wants from you. Even if you might have been offered more value in terms of prospects and they wouldn't have been interested, they just wanted Taylor Rogers. And you could see why. They don't have a set closer, and Rogers is a really good bullpen piece. The thing that frustrates me about this trade isn't anything in this trade. It's what resulted in this trade being necessary. And that is the Twins not addressing the rotation up until this point. There were other things they could have done that would have not had to have given up a guy like Taylor Rogers to address the rotation. So again, I think this trade is good value. I think I would do this trade. I don't love this trade, but I would do it. But it is frustrating that this is what it came down to at the end of the day. Looking back on the offseason, and we all felt this at the time. I'm not saying anything original. Gosh, if the Twins just would have gotten one legit free agent starting pitcher, and not even like an ace, like somebody who was better than Dylan Bundy and you could think was better than Joe Ryan and Bailey Ober potentially. I'm not even saying better than Sonny Gray. Because I don't think Chris Paddack is better than Sonny Gray. If they could have just done that in free agency, and I know sometimes it's not, you can't blame the front office all the time for everything because it's possible they didn't have the budget to do all of that and sign Correa. So that's a factor to keep in mind. But gosh, it just feels like hindsight's 2020. But if they could have just signed someone else in the rotation and again been able to kept Rogers. But now that that we're past that point, it's water under the bridge at this point. Looking at it today in terms of what they had in-house versus, this trade, I think the team is more functional after this trade. I really do, than they were with Taylor Rogers and Brent Rooker. And with that being the case, and I like that Paddack has 3 years of team control and Pagan has 2 himself. So I can't be too up in arms, but I'm not. I'm frustrated at the overall through line of the offseason has resulted in this. But it is what it is. When you're operating like the Twins front office had it and so kind of fluid and focused on value, again, if they would have signed a free agent starting pitcher, maybe that means Carlos Correa doesn't happen. So it's really hard to think of how the dominoes might fall if things would have gone differently. But still, even though I'm fine with them trading Rogers, it still is a little bit of a slouch that was kind of the way it had to happen. Thanks for checking this out. We talked about these guys on a live stream for like 40 minutes last night. If you want to know more specifically my thoughts on Paddack, I talked even a little bit about Pagan as well and Rogers. Check that out.